Insulating the office really is the next stage, and really it's looking at how I insulate it to make it as warm as possible, so that I'm comfortable working out here with low heat. So I've got an energy saving heater coming via the internet, and I need as much insulation as possible. From what I've read online, as much insulation as possible will help support a warm environment. I'm going for triple insulation really. I'm going for, as you see, the bubble wrap with the foil on the outside, some sort of insulation. For this particular section I'm looking at recycled plastic loft insulation, and then I'm going to have plasterboard on the walls, and on the floor I'm going for some chipboard loft panel flooring. So as you see here, I've got some battens going down, 2.5 centimetres by 5 centimetres. Bits of batten I had left over from a roof being done last year, just offcuts really. I'm laying them across the office, as you can see, from left to right, and I'm going to take them right down. I'm not quite finished yet, but you get the idea, especially at the end. So they've got something here for the loft boards to rest on. They're going to go across this way. Before I put the loft boards down, I'm going to have insulation, the metal bubble wrap insulation with the recycled plastic on top, and then I'm going to put the loft boards on top of that, cover the whole floor area, because you lose about 25% of your heat through the floor. You get damp coming up. I've also got the damp proofing plastic underneath the floor, then the thick wooden floor, then the metal bubble wrap, then the recycled plastic, then the loft boards, probably some lino, and then some carpet or rug later on to keep it really nice and warm. I'm going to do the insulation myself now. I was going to get someone to help me, but I'm going to do it myself. I've gone for as low CO2 as possible, although the plastic stuff isn't great. You do get the insulation. I've gone for recycled plastic, and I've also gone, and you'll see later on, I've gone for a wool mix, a wool, 80% sheep's wool with polyester. It's not the cheapest, it's not as cheap as glass wool, but I've done my research online, and the CO2 for the making of wool is really low, really low. And also sheep's wool takes out any toxins in the environment, and it can make your working environment much more nicer. It can soak up chemicals like formaldehyde in the atmosphere from any kind of glue products. You do get some glue products within chipboard, so it helps to create a really nice atmosphere. The recycled plastic is very low CO2 emissions to be made, so that's really good. And in terms of the keeping things warm, it's really great. So I'll put some links at the end of the video at the bottom, the sites I've used to get some research about, but I think I've tried to go for a bit of balance really. I'm using recycled materials left over from a previous job. I've got some loft boards, I've got recycled plastic loft insulation, and I've gone for AirTech and multi-purpose insulation wrap to give as much insulation as possible, so I'm not using so much heat, and I'm keeping it really warm, but also trying to reduce any kind of chemicals in the environment. To stick down the insulation wrap, I'm going to use a PVA style non-solvent glue, especially for the walls, not so much the floor. You don't really need very much, you sort of place it on then, put the insulation on top. But I'm going to use a PVA solvent style. For this one I'm using a B&Q interior grab adhesive, but I'm going to just try and, it's low solvent, and it makes it easier for reducing any chemicals really. Right, I'm using, as before, the sheep's wool mixed with recycled waste plastic, and I'm also using 100% waste plastic as well. But I wanted to use some of the sheep's wool because I've read online that A, it's environmentally friendly, low CO2 levels, and also it does soak up any kind of moisture, bad moisture in the air, and releases it over time, so it doesn't get too damp in your office. Also, it does, I believe, I've read, that it takes out any toxins from the air, and it can soak up chemicals like formaldehyde, which can be in some materials like carpets and things, but also in treated wood, which I've got in the shed. So I want to make it as environmentally friendly as possible. This particular Eco wool, as you can see here, I'll read it to you, but Eco wool is better, it's breathable, it's itch-free, it's safe to use and easy to tear. It's 20 centimetres depth or 200 millimetres. It's loft insulation as well as any other insulation we use it for. It's equivalent to the same sort of depth of traditional glass fibre without the issue of breathing glass bits in. Properly installed loft insulation will reduce energy usage. Sheep's wool is a natural resource and sheep are integral to the management of many upland ecosystems. Choosing this product supports British sheep farmers. Insulating your loft will help reduce your home's carbon emissions. And you see the product information here as well. Made from 55% sheep's wool and 35% recycled post-consumer waste plastic, like plastic bottles, that kind of thing. And it's been transported in the UK to minimise transport miles, and also not recycled or recyclable yet. However, I'm planning to use this office for a good few years, so I'm not too worried about that. Hopefully in the future it'll be better. So what I've done so far is I have put a piece of plasterboard up, and I had to tear the sheep's wool in half because it's so thick. I knew that when I priced for it anyway. I knew that one roll would sort of double up really. So what I've done, I've split it and I've packed it in behind. What I've done is I've lifted the plasterboard forward, put it in behind, having it hanging over the top like this, and then I've screwed in a couple of screws. I just started that there, so I'm going to do a few more whilst talking. But it's okay. It seems to be going okay so far. So I haven't plasterboarded for quite a long time. I've never done it in insulation, so it's a first for me. But as you can see, if I just show you here, I put the screw on the end there on my magnetic, and having a battery operated drill for this sort of work is fine because it's not heavy duty. It goes into the plasterboard just fine. So I take the line down of the batten and just slowly start turning the screwdriver. As you can see, it goes in nice and easy into the wood, and there you go. You can see it moving into position. Whoopsie, into position into the wood. So I'm going to carry on with that. I'll show you another bit in a minute, but for the moment, that's where I'm at. So you put the insulation in, plasterboard behind, and then start screwing the plasterboard into place.